And $1 billion will be invested in R&D, critical to powering up innovation and technology, part of a strategy to develop farms that can compete on a global stage. Well, for more on how businesses view this year's budget, I have with me Kok Ping Sung. He is the CEO of the Singapore Business Federation. Mr. Kok, thank you so much for coming in today. I'm sure you were glued to the TV listening to that speech. Indeed. So, what's been the reaction to the budget from the business community that you've been speaking to just this afternoon? What in the announcement do you think will have the biggest impact on them?
Thank you for having me on the show. On the whole, businesses welcome the budget. I think businesses are reassured that the government has the back of businesses and recognize the importance of growth. We see the budget as substantive and it strikes a good balance between addressing short-term challenges as well as investing in the long term. Your question about which one has the biggest impact, I would like to answer it in two time horizon.
Okay.
I think immediately the one that is most welcomed by businesses is of course the 50% corporate income tax rebate capped at $40,000. It provided immediate relief to businesses. And it's actually the second year the government has introduced this. It's a pretty generous quantum. And in fact, it's almost equivalent to the CDC vouchers for households.
Yeah.
There is something for everybody because there's a minimum $2,000 benefit as long as you're active in business. Beyond the CIT, I think other measures to help companies elevate costs is a salary support that government is giving to employers of low-wage workers through the extension for the progressive wage credit scheme, as well as for senior workers, again through the extension of the senior employment credit. I think this is important because we know that it is an important societal outcome for us to uplift the wages of lower wage workers and seniors, and companies do need to play its share, and it's good that government recognize it by co-sharing the burden of the salary costs. Now, if I take a step back and think about the impact on the longer term, I think it is I was adding up the numbers, over $14 billion investment in productivity, in R&D, in Changi Airport, in the future energy. These will help us build long-term capabilities in our companies. It will help us pull ahead in our connectivity through Changi Airport, and more importantly, overcome some of our energy constraints. So taken as a whole, I think this important investment in long-term capability is important because just like businesses, I don't think Singapore can compete purely on the basis of low cost. It has to be competing on the basis of value, and the only sustainable way to increasing value is capabilities.
So you feel that the business community says it's a nice balance between a bit of front-loading and then long-term infrastructure ecosystem development.
Yes, right.
But there is also still more money that's being pumped into upskilling and training of the workers themselves, the talent themselves. Which sectors or types of industries would need them most urgently?
I think in today's rapidly changing environment and the acceleration of technology and the need for companies to go through the net transition, I would say that no sector and no workers is spared. Skills decay is a very real issue. So we are heartened that the government has continued to put investment in Skills Future. I think the fact that the government is prepared to even give a monthly training allowance for people who are pursuing part-time study is a recognition that not maybe everyone wants to go through a full-time kind of study. But from a business community, what we are more heartened is that the government has accepted some of the business community recommendation about enhancing and extending the Skills Future Enterprise Credit Scheme. There's some refinement of it. It has been extended for another year, and a new tranche of $10,000 will be given, and it will be done on a wallet basis to give greater agencies to companies. And also, I think there's also a new scheme called the Skills Future Workforce Development Grant that again hit the call by businesses to say that there are just too many grants out there. Can you kind of streamline it? So this new injection reinforces the importance of coupling enterprise transformation and workforce transformation. So I think companies will be able to benefit from it to drive further development in their workforce.
All right, that sounds optimistic. Now, I want to also ask you about the $150 million that will go into helping firms who want to partner major cloud providers to access things like the AI tools, computing power under a new scheme. Sufficient or doesn't go far enough?
Well, $150 million is not a small sum. And I think it's important for us to take a look at this in the context of previous investments that the government has made. Last year's budget, government has announced a $1 billion fund for AI to support the national AI strategy. So I think this $150 million enterprise computing scheme should be seen as a supplement, to the $1 billion investment that's made. You ask whether it is enough. I think what's more important is to get companies to start utilizing the scheme. I'm waiting for further details, but it looks like it will help accelerate companies' adoption of AI technology and, more importantly, give them access to computing power and resources, which is increasingly quite difficult to get because of the very high prices of the chips.
Yeah.
But again, just to look at schemes, I don't think we should just see this scheme in its isolation. There are other programs out there. There's a productivity standards, productivity solutions grant that I know agencies are working hard to introduce AI components. There's enterprise development grant. And I think if the take-up for this scheme is good and it delivers the results, I'm sure the government can consider future top-up, just like it does to many of the funds, like the Productivity Fund and so on and so forth.
And I'm sure you'll be feedbacking whether it's being supported or not for next year.
Certainly will.
Now, just a final question before you go. One of the economic strategies that the government is doubling down on is innovation. For one, there's going to be, a $1 billion investment for R&D infrastructure. The focus is, of course, on semiconductors and farmers. Now, how will that trickle down to helping Singaporeans and local workers?
I think the government has identified these two sectors probably as key economic sectors to place the bet on. I think if you look at these two sectors, there are certain commonalities across them. One, they're high technology. Number two, they are plugged into the global supply chain. And number three, for it to thrive, you need a thriving ecosystem. And all these, I believe, play to the strength of Singapore as a trusted global hub for investments. These will create high-paying jobs, may not be huge in numbers, but certainly high-value jobs. And certainly with that new investment, it will trickle down for our workers. And I think most Singaporeans would benefit if they continue to upgrade and reskill to meet the demands of these jobs.
All right. Really appreciate you coming in and giving us the business perspective on Budget 2025. I've been speaking there with Mr. Kok Peng Soong, CEO of the Singapore Business Federation.